Friends, welcome back to another lecture on optics and spectroscopy. And today we are going to discuss three topics. Number one, cardinal points, in which we are going to discuss three types of cardinal points, such as focal points, principal points, and nodal points. Each have two of them. Then we have three planes corresponding to this, three pair of planes corresponding to these points. These are the things that we are going to discuss on cardinal points with relevant diagrams. Next to that, we will see the refraction through a thin prism. We will define what is thin prism. Then we will see the refraction through a thin prism using two different methods. We will see a small derivation regarding this in order to obtain the angle of deviation, right? We will find an equation for angle of deviation using two different methods. And third one, we will see how the dispersion occurs when a light ray is passing through a prism. We are also going to obtain an equation for dispersive power of the prism. Okay, these are the things that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So let me start from cardinal points. Cardinal points are nothing but a set of few points. And before defining what it is, let me tell you a small history. Actually, in the previous lectures, we have discussed about refraction through thin lenses. Generally, we define thin lens. Thin means thin. That is a word which is very qualitative. So, the word thin, idea of thin differs to person. For me, thin may be 1 millimeter. For you, thin, that word thin may be 10 millimeter. It's a qualitative term. So, if it is thin film, how thin it is? What is the definition for that? A prism which has an angle that is less than 10 degree, that is said to be thin prism, right? Or lens. If it is a lens, its angle should be less than or equal 10 degree or less than that. So thickness, if it is the case, if a lens has very small angle, it is said to be thin lens. Or if it is a prism, it has an angle less than 10 degree. Then it is classified as a thin prism. In these cases, we neglect this thickness. We assume that the thickness won't play much role or vital role on the determination of focal length and focal plane and other image forming properties of the lens or prism. But in reality, in all the cases, we couldn't able to assume or we couldn't able to consider thin lens or thin prism, isn't it? We have a thicker lens or the combination of lenses. In that cases, the thickness will automatically be higher. In that situation, it is material to consider the thickness. Then how to make the calculations for focal length or focal plane or other things. So in the case of thick lenses or the combination of lenses, the point at which this incoming light or the light coming from object will incident on the lens, and based on the refraction, right? Refraction at which refraction from which surface, which point of the surface of the thick lens, that determines image forming properties of that particular lens. But this is difficult because if you are having different set of lenses, you need to find the size of the lens, the point at which the refraction start to occur. All these things you have to calculate separately. Instead, in 1841, the physicist Gauss, who came and who has given a new idea, right? According to him, whatever be the number of lenses, if it is placed coaxially means the center of the lens is lies on the same axis, right? For example, if you are having one lens like this, if you are having another lens like this, then the center of the both lies in a common axis. Then these two lenses are said to be coaxial lenses. Such any number of lenses you are given with, it doesn't matter, it can be considered as a equivalent single lens system. So that is the concept given by Gauss during 1841. Once you apply an equivalence single lens, then you can apply Gauss law. So you would able to apply Gauss law, then you can end up with the single equation for focal length. So there is a separate equation for lens and there is a separate equation for prism and all. Fine. Here in this case for focal length and other things, the distance will be measured from a point, right? That point is different from the point where actually the original refraction takes place, right? So that points, there are certain points from which these calculations are made. Those points, right? Those points are classified as Gardinal points, and the plane of intersection of those points with the optical axis. This is the optical axis. So the plane of intersection from that point perpendicular to optical axis is classified as corresponding planes. If you define focal point, then the corresponding plane will be focal plane. If you define principal point, then the corresponding plane will be principal plane. Fine. How many such points? There are 3 different points, each are having a pair. Those points are, let me list out here. One is focal point. It is a pair of points, so that there are two such points, 2 in number. Another thing is principal points. This is also a pair of points, that is 2 in number. And third one is 2 nodal points, right? Nodal points, it is also 2 in number, which means we define a set of focal points, a set of principal points, a set of nodal points. These are the points from which we are going to measure certain distances that determine the optical properties of a particular lens, irrespective of the point from which originally refraction occurs, if we consider 2 coaxial lens or 2 coaxial, or a combination of prisms. Fine. How to define those? That we are going to learn a moment later, but prior to that, these 6 points are called Gardinal points, and the planes corresponding to these points are called Gardinal planes. You will understand clearly once we draw the diagram. Generally, we draw the planes once we identify the points, right? Suppose we identify a point here, and if we draw a perpendicular line towards this optical axis, this forms a plane, right? So generally, Gardinal planes are defined by drawing a perpendicular line from the particular Gardinal point towards the optical axis. When you make an angle between optical axis and this line, it will make an angle 90 degree. So that always cardinal planes are perpendicular to the optical axis. Fine. And these cardinal points and these cardinal planes, which are the intrinsic property of a particular lens system, right? As it is an intrinsic property, these cardinal points and cardinal planes that will determine the image forming property of that particular lens system. Okay, fine. First, let us start from principal points. Let us start from principal points. Okay. For that, in order to define principal points, let us consider two lenses. Two small lenses. My diagram may not be ideal, but I hope this will be useful to understand the concept. Okay. Now this is axis and this is lens 1 and this is lens 2. Lens 1 and lens 2 are identical. These are the assumptions, identical. Now, assume that there is an object which is located at f1. This f1 is the focal point for this lens L1, right? So that there is an object at f1 and a light ray that is originated from f1, that is travels towards L, right? And it incidents on the lens L1 at the height h1. At the height h1. After that, let me write it this side, h1. After that, it gets refraction and the refracted ray travels parallel to the optical axis, like this, right? Not exactly parallel. After refraction, it travels like this. Okay? Then it touches the lens 2 with the height h2, right? After here the first refraction takes place, here the second refraction takes place. After second refraction, it travels exactly parallel. Only here it travels exactly parallel. This is the ray W. Now, you see, in this place, assume that if it is not getting refracted, if it is not getting refracted, what would be the direction it will take place? It will take place the direction like this. And similarly, right, this is an inclined line. Instead, if you extend this parallel ray backward, if you extend this parallel ray backward, it will be like this, right? So from the first refraction, and let's define this point as S and this point as Q. Now the ray from F1 touches the lens L1 at S and it gets refracted. It moves in this direction, and again it touches the lens at L2 at Q and it is refracted and it travels parallel to optical axis. Get it? Fine. Now what we are doing, assuming that it is not refracted, then it will get the straight line path, this dotted line. We are extending forward. Similarly, from here we are extending backward, right? Now these 2 points touches at a point, right? These 2 lines touches at a point and we draw a perpendicular line from this point to axis. Now this point, right, this point at axis is denoted by P1, that is principal point 1. Okay. Now here you can define an angle between unrefracted ray to the refracted ray. It is delta 1, that is angle of deviation 1 at the lens L1. And similarly, if you extend this in forward, this line will travel like this. Here you can define another angle, that is delta 2. It is angle of deviation 2 at lens 2, right? Fine. So this point P1 is defined as principal points. Simply that we have defined by extending this unrefracted straight line of the first ray and backward extension of the second refracted ray from the second lens. This point is the principal point 1. Now let us draw another diagram where okay, now it has a common optical axis. Here we have assumed that the light ray that is originated from the focal point 1. Instead, we assume the light ray travels parallel from the optical axis. Parallel from the optical axis. Now, again, this point which is having the height H1 H1, right, and it is getting refracted at this point. Let us define this point as A, and this refracted ray comes here and it touches the lens at point B, and it is again getting refracted and it touches F2 in the axis, right? Now let us extend this line by assuming that it is not getting refracted, right? It will keep on traveling in the parallel. Similarly, here there is a refraction. We extend this line towards backwards. These two lines touches at a particular point. If we extend that point to optical axis, this point is said to be P2. Let us define this point as H2 and let us define this point as H1. Okay. Now, this P1 and P2 are called principal points, right? And a perpendicular line from H1 to the optical axis and H2 to optical axis, that is H1 P1 and H2 P2 are called principal planes. Principal planes. Okay. Now, these points H1 P1 and H2 P2, these are the principal points and principal planes. Here, if we draw another diagram which combining these two, right? That is, initially we have a parallel ray, right? And we have another ray from focal point 1, right? These ray, you can draw these rays like this, and this ray will touch here. And similarly, this is F2 and this ray goes like this, right? And this is lens 1, this is lens 2, focal point 1, focal point 2. So this point is S, this point is A, and this is O, and this point is H1, this point is P1, this point is H2, this point is P2. Okay, so these are H1, and this point is B, okay, and the emerging light, that is W. Okay, if you combine these two images, you will get this image, right? The light ray originated from the focal point 1 will touch the point H1 if it is unrefracted. Similarly, the light ray coming from the point O will touch the point H1 if it is unrefracted. But what happens? It is actually getting refracted, and the path of refraction, path of light ray after refractions are shown in figure 1 and figure 2. Okay, here these planes H1, P1 and H2, P2 are principal planes which are called conjugate planes. Conjugate plane means if an object is located at O, then its image will be appeared at, the object O is located at H1, then the image will be appeared at H2. And the lateral magnification of this lens system is +1, right? The lateral magnification of this lens system is equal to +1. So it is neither, the size of the image neither blown up nor shrinked. So it appears as it is. So as there is an lateral magnification is unity, then these planes are called unit planes, and these points are called unit points. These are called unit planes, and these points are called unit points. These points are called unit points. See, these are the lens systems which are separated by a distance d, right? These are separated by the distance d. That is the original case, right? And we have defined 2 points H1 and H2 which are conceptual points. By concept only we have defined it. Actually, in physically, these points are not existed. It is a conceptual points because we assume that if it is extended, we define by extending the lines, right? Originally it is not happens because once the light ray touches here, it will get originally be refracted, right? So these are the points which are very conceptual points and that will not be originally existed, right? Fine. Hence, in this way, you can define principal points and principal planes. Now, from this diagram itself, we can define what is focal point and focal planes. Focal points and focal planes can be defined using these diagrams. There are two focal points. One is first focal point. Second is second focal point. Okay. See, first focal point is a point from which the light ray originates and it will travel, right? It will travel parallel to the optical axis after refraction, right? Let me repeat again. The first focal point is a point from which if a light ray originated, then it will be traveling parallel to the optical axis after it is getting refracted in the optical system. So that point is first focal point. And the second focal point is F2. First focal point is F1, which is denoted by F1, and second focal point lies here, which is denoted by F2. Now, second focal point is a point, right? If a light ray travels parallel to the optical system, if it is getting refracted in a lens system, then after refraction it will pass through it. A parallel beam of light after refraction in a lens system will pass through a point. That point is called, pass through a point at optical axis. That point is called second focal point. Now, if you draw a perpendicular plane at these 2 points, then those planes are said to be focal planes. Those planes are said to be focal planes. This one is first focal plane and this one is second focal plane. Now, what is focal length? The distance between focal point to principal point. Focal point 1 to principal point 1 is said to be focal length 1. Similarly, the distance between second principal point to second focal point is the focal length 2. So this you can write focal FL, focal length 1, which is nothing but P1 minus F1. P1 minus F1. Then focal length 2 could be defined as F2 minus P2. F2 minus P2. Higher value minus lower value if you putting it in a Cartesian coordinate system. Right? In a lens system on either side, if the medium is same, for example, this lens system is placed in an air medium, then this focal length 1 and focal length 2 are equal. This focal length 1 and focal length 2 are equal. Okay, so that focal length 1 is defined as F1, focal length 2 is defined as F2, so that F1 equal to F2. So these are the focal points and focal planes and the corresponding focal lengths. Fine. And the remaining is nodal points. Nodal point is a point where there is no refraction takes place. This is the simple definition for nodal points. But what will happen when a light ray incident on a nodal points in the lens system, then it will travel parallel to the incident ray after it is passing through a lens system. Essentially, there won't be any angle of so there is no refraction, so that you won't get any angle of deviation. Let us define that too. Nodal points. Suppose if there is a lens system like this, and this is an optical axis. If a light ray coming to incident on a lens at a particular point, right? This total, these two lenses separated to the distance d, this is a lens system. A light ray getting incident on a lens 1, right, at the point B will be, right, emerging out at the lens 2 at point C, right. These ray and these ray are parallel, so that what would happen, this will travel like this. Similarly, a light ray coming from this is A. If a light ray coming from E it will incident on a point F that will emerging out as a parallel line H to this after getting traveled through this lens system, right? So essentially there is no refraction in this, right? Now what happens? Assume that if this light ray is not refracted, it will travel and touch the optical axis at some point here. Similarly, this light ray is not getting refracted. These will be touching at some points, right? There is a refraction here and there is a refraction here. So net refraction is 0 in this. Similarly, for this ray, there is a refraction here and there is a refraction here. This net refraction of these two places will be nullified with each other, so that it assumes that, it appears that this light ray travels parallel after traveling through the lens system. Assume that this ray A is not refracting at point B, it touches the optical axis at N1. Similarly, if it comes backward, if this ray is not refracted, it touches the point at N2. The similar is true for the ray E and the ray D. Okay, and this point you can say that G, right? The light ray coming and traveling this direction, and this light ray is traveling this direction. Now these 2 points N1 and N2, these 2 points are called nodal points. These 2 points are called nodal points, right? At nodal point, if a light ray, right, a light ray travels towards nodal point, that won't get it, that net refraction is 0, right? So that net refraction is 0. In that way you can define nodal points, right? And the plane corresponding to nodal points 1 and 2, that is called nodal planes. Nodal planes are a perpendicular lines drawn to the optical axis at the point N1 and N2, which are nodal points, right? These are called nodal planes. So these 3 set of points, 2 focal points, 2 principal points and 2 nodal points, and the corresponding 3 set of planes, these are called cardinal points and cardinal planes for optical system. So these are the points from which we can calculate certain distances that will determine the image forming properties. And as we said earlier, these are the intrinsic properties of an optical systems, and which plays a vital role to form on the formation of image for that particular optical system. And the next topic is refraction through a thin prism. Refraction through a thin prism, right? A prism is said to be thin prism when its refracting angle is, right, or refracting angles are of the order of 10 degree or smaller angles. When the refracting angles are 10 degree or smaller, then it is said to be thin prism. Let us consider one such prism. ABC, right? Now a light ray from point P that touches the face AB at Q, and it emerging in the face AC at R. Now by drawing up perpendicular to both the points of light rays at faces AB and AC, right? And you can extend this as an unrefracted ray. Similarly, you can extend refracted ray in the backwards. Now, this angle is the delta angle of deviation, and this angle is I1 angle of incidence, and this angle is R1 angle of refraction, and this angle is angle of emergence I2, this angle is angle of incidence R2 at the faces AC, at the face AC, right? Here this PQ is the incident ray, right? Here angle A is small, that is less than 10 degree. Assuming, right, this condition, now from the theory of refraction, we can write angle of deviation is nothing but I1 plus I2 minus A, where A is nothing but summation of R1 plus R2. But we know the equation for refractive index N, which is sin I by sin R. From this equation, you can write this, you can apply this equation at point Q and point R, so that sin of I1, which is equal to N sin of R1, and similarly sin of I2, that is equal to N sin of R2. But for a thin prism, the angles of refractions will be less than 10 degree. For smaller angles, sines of angles will be considered as simply angles, so that I1 will equal to NR1, I2 will equal to NR2. Applying this assumption here, so that delta, which is equal to NR1 plus NR2 minus A. So N times R1 plus R2 minus A you can write, but R1 plus R2 is nothing but A. So this is N times, NA minus A. We can write delta is equal to N minus 1A. So this is the angle of deviation for a thin prism, and we can say that this is method 1. This is method 1. Fine. What is method 2? Method 2 for calculating angle of deviation for a thin prism. Right? For a prism, we have the equation for refractive index N, which is equal to sin A plus D by 2 divided by sin A by 2. Okay. Here A is the angle of the deviation, angle of the prism, while D is angle of minimum deviation. Angle of minimum deviation. Now, let us assume in our case A is angle of prism, delta is angle of minimum deviation. Right? So that the above equation becomes N equal to sin A plus delta by 2 divided by sin A by 2. But for small angles, sines becomes Sine of angles becomes normal angles. So this becomes a plus delta by 2 divided by a by 2. Right? So that this 2 and this 2 will cancel out. So n is equal to a plus delta divided by a, or you can write Na is equal to a plus delta, or you can write delta equal to Na minus a, or delta equal to n minus 1 a. Right? This equation is hold true only for the angles, refracting angles are small, that is less than 10 degree. So in this way you can define refraction through a thin prism, right? And you can find the angle of deviation, right? What is angle of deviation? That is the angle between the incident ray to the deviated ray after refraction within the prism. What is prism? Prism is nothing but, right, it is a glass system which has three faces, in which one faces is roughened and two faces are polished. The light ray can pass through these two faces. After getting refraction, the incident ray will travel in a new direction. And the third topic that we have said to be discussed in this lecture is dispersion of light. Dispersion of light. See, suppose earlier we have considered light ray which is monochromatic, that is which is single color. So a light ray incident on a prism will getting refracted and it is travel in a new direction. Instead, we are having white light. A white light incident on a prism, right? What happens? After refraction, this white light splits into different colors, its constituent colors, and each color will travel in different direction, right? Each color will travel in different direction. These are said to be right. It is white light. When a white light incident on a prism and it is right after refraction, it is splits up into its constituent colors, right? Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red, in which violet is deviated more than red. So angle of deviation is greater for violet and small for red, right? For your information, the human eye, which has more observing capacity for yellow green, which has 550 nanometer, which is yellow green, so it is more visible. When you are looking in the spectrometer, yellow green color will be more brighter than other colors, right? Here, as the violet is deviating more, right? Deviation for angle of deviation for violet is very greater than angle of deviation for red, so that refractive index for violet is greater than refractive index for red, right? Fine. Let us find an expression for the dispersive power of a prism. Dispersive power of a prism, right? See, we should clearly understand what is dispersion, what is deviation, what is refraction. Refraction is the bending of light ray from its original direction when it is travel from one medium to another medium. For example, when it is travel from air to glass medium or air to water medium, that is refraction. And dispersion. Dispersion is splitting up of an white light into its constituent colors when it is passing through a dispersive medium such as prism. Okay, that is, dispersion is simply splitting up of white light into its constituent colors. So refraction, dispersion and deviation. Deviation means due to refraction and due to dispersion, this original light ray, it is now travel in a new direction from its original direction, right? So deviation means that the traveling of the light ray in a new direction rather than its original direction due to refraction and dispersion of a light ray when it is passed into a particular refractive medium or dispersive medium. This we must understand before going into in detail. Okay, fine. Now, in order to find an expression for the dispersive power of a particular prism, let us consider a prism and let us consider only 3 colors. So this is the direction for the undispersed light, and let us consider 3 colors, right? One is violet, other one is yellow, other one is red, right? Now, angle of deviation for violet, let us define delta V. Angle of deviation of red will be delta R, and angle of deviation for yellow as delta. Okay? Now, NV, NR are the refractive indices for violet, yellow and red. Okay. Now, as angle of the prism is small, as we have discussed in this previous topic, if angle of deviation mean angle of the prism is small, then we can write the angle of deviation as n minus 1 into a, angle of the prism, right? Assume that here also this angle of the prism A is small. In that case, we can write angle of deviation for violet, yellow and red as delta V, which is equal to NV minus 1 into A, delta which is equal to N minus 1 into A, and delta R which is equal to NR minus 1 into A, where the delta V, delta and delta R corresponding to the angle of deviation for violet, yellow and red light. Now, the difference in angle of deviations of any 2 colors is said to be the angular dispersion between the 2 colors. Okay, let me repeat again. The difference between the angle of deviations of any 2 colors is said to be angular dispersion of these 2 colors, right? Now we can write angular dispersion for violet and red. So angular dispersion for violet and red, that we can write delta V minus delta R, which is nothing but NR minus 1 into A minus NV minus 1 into A minus NR minus 1 into A. If we expand that, NV into A minus NR plus A will cancel out, NV into A minus NR, there is an A here, NR into A, or you can write NV minus NR into A, that is nothing but the angular dispersion between violet and red color. Okay. Now, dispersive power. how to find the dispersive power. That is what the beginning of this derivation. Dispersive power is nothing but dispersive power is the ratio of angular dispersion of any two color to the mean deviation of mean ray. Here deviation of mean ray is LO. So ratio between angular dispersion of two colors by angle of by the deviation of mean ray, right? In that case, dispersive power is nothing but this one, angular dispersion of two rays. Here delta V minus delta R by deviation of mean ray delta. So delta V delta R is nothing but NV minus NR multiplied by A, and for delta N minus 1 into A, in N minus 1 into A will cancel out. So dispersive power of the material prism is nothing but NV minus NR by N, where NV, NR, N are the refractive indices for violet, red and yellow. Sorry, N minus 1. So this is the dispersive power. See, from this diagram we understand that refractive indices for a monochromatic light in a refractive medium is same. It is a single value. Whereas if you are passing an white light, if it is dispersed and if it is splitted into its constituent colors, and different colors have different refractive indices. So that is very important, and this will play a vital role on image forming properties and or error in the image formation, right? Once by understanding these things, we can find the way to diminish or decrease or nullify the errors created in the formation of the images by an optical system. Let me stop here in this lecture. We will resume back on the next video. Until then, thank you. Bye.